Hello, my name is Connor, and I am a marketing major at Oregon Institute of Technology. And today I am aiming to respond to the video Globalization is Good by Johan Norberg. More specifically, I'm going to one, look at the definition that he uses to define globalization, and then two, we're going to analyze his points of view using the theories that Jan Schulte presents in her book Globalization, A Critical Introduction. Next, we're going to look at some of the filmmaking choices that Norberg uses to ultimately demonstrate his points of view towards globalization. And finally, we are going to reframe one of his scenes so that we could potentially look at a different form or a different point of view of globalization. So, we're going to start off with Norberg's definition of globalization. And within this, he uses what I believe to be a very liberalist point of view. And according to Schulte, this is essentially removing officially imposed constraints on movements of resources between countries in order to form an open and borderless world economy. And the reason I believe he understands globalization as liberalization is because he continuously uses terms such as competition, specialization, free trade, private property, to explain what differentiates countries that are globalized from the ones that are not. And it's also interesting to see how he counter-argues other definitions of globalization. For example, when he's filming in the UK, he refers to how some people may understand globalization as westernization. He doesn't specifically use the term westernization, but he says that some people argue that the Western culture took over other cultures by force. But he counter-argues that by saying that everyone had a choice to adopt the Western culture or not, which, in my opinion, is very questionable. Anyways, because Norberg understands globalization as liberalization, the theory that he uses is liberalism. Liberalism says that globalization is a result of natural human desires for economic welfare and political liberty, or trying to essentially promote human progress. And one more time, just to reiterate the fact that I believe he is a liberalist, is because the way he argues that the way to achieve globalization is by promoting capitalism. So pretty much he's saying that if we allow people to follow their natural desire of becoming rich and free without putting regulations, everyone will eventually become rich and free. For example, when he is in Kenya, he is very critical of government regulation and how it doesn't allow people in Kenya to escape from poverty. And I think he is using this film choices to essentially reiterate the fact and reinforce his argument of a liberalist point of view. But I wonder if it would have been better if he maybe reframed his movie to argue a little bit for the anti-globalist point of view that he mentioned so much. I believe that the point of view of anti-globalist refers to the Marxist focus on modes of production, social exploitation through unjust distribution, and social emancipation through the transcendence of capitalism, and how this only helps a few number of people to become rich by exploiting others. According to Marxists, globalization has been driven for these powerful people that promoted the spread of capitalism. So I think that he could have been more credible in the fact if he could have actually interviewed someone with an anti-globalist point of view. Let's say when he's in Vietnam, instead of interviewing happy employees that think their job is great, you could interview employees that tell how exploited they're being and how bad their working conditions are overall. And then he could show how the owner of the sweatshops live in luxurious houses and drive nice cars. And while Norberg still may believe the right way to go about globalization is from the liberalist point of view, it would have made him more credible to actually look at some of the different definitions of globalization, like Marxism, because as we know, the definition of globalization ultimately drives how we think of globalization, and it's important to at least consider the other points of view.